Okay, I'm back, and I'm going to tell you about the combat in this system, Chapter 5 combat. Combat, including bar brawls, shootouts, chases, and more, is a vital element in micro RPG Basic. Combat is a slightly more structured portion of the game. Instead of players simply just talking back and forth and taking action as they please, they instead are required to take turns with specific actions. So the combat's made up of 3 steps. 1, determine initiative. 2, player turns. 3, enemy turns. So 1, determine initiative. 2, player turns. Now the player turns can be the main actions and secondary actions. Probably like quaffing a potion would be a secondary action. 3, enemy turns. Again, they have their main action and again their secondary action. So, initiative. So basically you do I'm going to sum it up for you. Basically you do an agility check. Whoever gets under that agility tribute the most goes first. So even if you both make your agility checks, I would say whoever has the lowest number would go. So that's pretty easy. That's a lot like it's very like old school D&D. You're rolling on your attributes. Let's see here. Player turns. On each player's turn, they may take one basic action and 1 secondary action in any order. Main action can be any of the following. So the main action, make a melee attack, make a ranged attack, provide medical assistance. So those are all main actions. Secondary action is like moving, includes running, climbing, jumping, mounting a horse, opening, closing a door, drawing, switching weapons, reloading a gun, weapon, drinking medicine, like quaffing a potion, like I said. Enemy turns. Let me see if I can go over here and focus in on the phone here so you can follow along better. Enemy turns. During an enemy turn, the GM takes control of the adversary. Each enemy is in the lineup can also take the same action as the players. Main actions, secondary actions. The main difference is that the GM never makes any kind of attack or of a tribute check using the cards or dice, so that's important. The difference is that the GM never makes any kind of attack or tribute check using the cards or dice. Enemy characters and non-player characters are extremely simplified versions of the normal character, and therefore only have 3 stats. What are those 3 stats? Well, let's get to it. Micro RPG Basic. Difficulty modifier, the DM. Health point total, HP, hit points, and the damage, DMG. DM and DMG is kind of too synonymous with Dungeons & Dragons, though. You might want to name it something else. I don't know. So the mod, I would just say difficulty. What's your difficulty? What's the difficulty modifier? And then the hit points and damage. I wouldn't even abbreviate, just because it's too much confusion. The GM decides where and how the enemy moves and where it attacks. Well, obviously, the enemy attacks plays out as follows. The GM declares that one of the enemy NPCs is attacking. The GM informs the player of what the enemy's difficulty modifier is. It's usually a negative number, so I'm going to have let's see, have a goblin come at Dirk or whatever. Dirk the Daring, right? And I'm going to say, okay, goblin's coming at you. It's got a, it has a short sword. It's going to use it's got a difficulty modifier of -1. Okay. Then it says the player then makes a dodge check using the agility attribute. If the player succeeds in the dodge check, the enemy attack misses. If the player fails the dodge check, they take the damage. If the player receives an overwhelming failure, they also take critical. And let's see. Alright, so let's see. I got my 2 dice here. We'll just say, okay, this is Dirk the Daring. He's got to succeed in his agility, which is pretty good. That's 6 plus 1, so it's 7. So using 2 dice, or using 12-sider, or using cards, I have to get under a 7. Now, it says that I have to negate that many points away from the agility. So it was a 7, but the goblin gives it a -7 on the agility. So now it's a 6. So now that's, yeah, I don't have to write that down. It's pretty easy math. So I have to roll under a 6. Let's see if I dodge. And I do not. I get 9. I get hit. Okay. So then I would see what kind of damage I take. So it's not overwhelming. If I got 2 6s, that'd be an overwhelming. It would get a critical on me. But since it's not, I take damage, and whatever damage that sword would do. Maybe it's got a short sword. I believe it's 1d6. Ooh, 6 damage. So I'm minus 6 damage from my hit points. That would knock me down from 15 to, I believe, 9. And yeah, that's pretty easy. Any questions, leave a comment. Let me know. I can clarify it for you. Attacking. Players make either a melee or ranged attack on their turn. Melee attacks using the strength attribute, and ranged attacks using the agility attribute. A player attack plays out as follows. The player decides who or what they are attacking. Okay, he's going to attack the goblin. And what weapon is being used? He's going to use, I think he's got, well, I didn't give him a weapon yet, so I'm just going to say he's going to use his long sword. All right, for the sake of this. The GM informs the player that what the enemy's DM is. It's usually a negative of some sort. So in this case, we'll keep it the same. We'll make it a -1 difficulty modifier. Now, the player temporarily negates that many points away from the tribute that they're using for the attack. So Dirk is using his strength. All right, his strength to attack. All right. So I got to roll under a 4 using these 2 dice. All right. But it's going to be even lower now because of the -1. So I actually have to roll under a 3 because the goblin the difficulty mod is -1. So let's see if I pull it off. And I definitely do not. So I don't do it. It gets out of the way. So if the player succeeds in the attack, the attack hits and deals damage. If the player achieves an overwhelming success, they also deal critical. For example, a damage of 2 times 2 usually only does 2 damage. However, on an overwhelming success, it deals 4 damage. If the player fails it, the attack check, they miss. So it doesn't even have to roll for its dodge, because it doesn't have that stat. It's only got 3 stats. So it's just going off of your strength attribute check minus whatever difficulty modifier on that, and then just roll under that. Really simple. Like he says, just leaves it to focus a little bit more on storytelling, not so much number crunching, which I get. It makes sense. Damage and healing. If a character in the game, either a player character or an NPC, is ever reduced to 0 or less, they are considered dead. A dead NPC would be out of the fight and out of the game. A dead player character would need to create a whole new character to get back into the game. However, it is possible to heal damage before death occurs. Healing damage can be done in the following ways. Sleeping. For every hour of sleep a character gets, they heal 2 hit points. So this is for micro RPG basic. You might want to be playing this with, like, alongside basic fantasy or another RPG, which you can refer to those rules for their kind of healing process. First aid. Any player with an intelligence score of 5 or higher can attempt an intelligence check to try to heal an ally or themselves. A successful attempt will heal 2 hit points unless the player has a medical profession, such as a doctor or physician, in which case they heal 3. An overwhelming success results in healing of 3 or 4 hit points. An overwhelming failure deals 2 damage to the player. Player characters may never heal above their maximum hit points. Makes sense, right? Common sense stuff. And remember, hit points total is strength plus agility plus 5. Enemies, and this will finish up this whole basic rule system. Enemies. There are many different possibilities for antagonists in micro RPG basic: animals, humans, monsters, yada yada. However, no matter what adversary the players happen to be facing, the enemy only has 3 stats to worry about: difficulty modifier, health point total, hit points, yeah, that's 2, and the damage. Alright, this makes it easy for any GM to quickly come up with a new group of enemies on the spot without a lot of number crunching or referencing the rules. 3 statistics of how they apply to the game are explained in the previous chapter. And that finishes up the basic rules. I will say this. The module I played, I think it's the Dragon Bard or whatever. Maybe I'll show you a little bit of that in the next video. But it is simplified, but there's always a consequence for overly simplifying things. Really, the hit points it has, the damage it does, and the modifier is the only thing that kind of differentiates each monster. And you have to role play everything else out, which is fine. But if you're the kind of person that wants certain kind of special moves that the creatures do, you're going to have to role play that and devise a way to where it makes sense, home rule it in using those 3 stats, you know. So yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty simple. Again, we'll go over it. This is the difficulty modifier, and a tribute check. That's what you need to do combat. And whatever number that is. So we'll make a formula of the diff mod. Like I said, I don't want to say DM because that's too confusing. Minus tribute check. And that's when you're getting attacked by the monster or trying to hit the monster or enemy. And if you're yeah, so if and when it's trying to attack you, you got to do an agility mod to try to dodge out of the way or you get hit. And when you're trying to attack a monster or enemy, you got to roll your strength or your agility, depending on whether you're using a ranged attack or a up-close weapon. So pretty simple. That's micro RPG. It reminds me kind of like Tiny Gunslingers a lot because of the D6, the D6s, and it's similar. So that's another one I might go over is Tiny Gunslingers, and do a session of that eventually. But yeah, so I'm looking forward. I'm going to do a simple little adventure using, maybe I'll call this character Dirk. Dirk the Dangerous. It's kind of a throwback to Dirk from Dragon's Lair, but okay. He's a runner, private transporter. He's smart and he's fast. That's why he's a runner. And maybe I'll come up with a real simple scenario, maybe using Mythic, maybe using Onan cards, which I'm doing a video on Onan cards, and play it out. Play it out on my poster board system there, my poster board hex grid with my tokens, and just a real simple one. Maybe it'll just be a 5-minute video or something, kind of showing you the setup and how to, kind of make decisions on the fly using the 6-sider or Oracle die. Maybe use a little bit of Mythic. All right, thanks for watching. I know this has been maybe a kind of, I hope it's not a boring series, but the numbers is like have gotten lower, watching this. So I think you guys want to watch the token action a little bit more, or have me introduce certain things that I make for the poster board setup, which I'm going to do more of. So thanks for watching. Keep solo questing, and yeah, let's do this. Let's see how this works out. This should be fun.